Are you a woman in the corporate world striving to break barriers, challenge unconscious bias, and lead the way for women in leadership roles globally? If so, this is the podcast for you. Introducing Leading Ladies Who Lunch. The lunch hour is usually the time when colleagues get together for real, honest conversations about work, life, and everything in between. In each episode of Leading Ladies Who Lunch, we'll delve into insightful discussions and share actionable strategies to help you navigate corporate life. Co-hosted by me, Cece George, a leadership development architect and inspirational speaker. I'm thrilled to share my experience and expertise on leadership, mentorship, and organizational intelligence to help you own your career.
And me, Rachel Lowndes, CEO and founder, imposter syndrome expert, and mindset coach at Rachel Lowndes Coaching and Consulting. Passionate about helping women conquer imposter syndrome and unleash their inner confidence to get the recognition and promotions they deserve.
Jam-packed with insightful conversations, expert advice, and inspiring stories from a diverse group, we'll explore how to overcome obstacles, shatter those glass ceilings, and build unshakable mindsets to unlock your true potential. So whether you're sipping a coffee or enjoying a meal at your desk, tune in for a no-host bar lunchtime chat. Episodes will be dropped every 2 weeks. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Leading Ladies Who Lunch, empowering women, one conversation at a time.
Hello, welcome back to the Leading Ladies Who Lunch podcast. Hey, Rachel, how's it going?
Cece, good to see you again. I'm really well, thank you. I'm really looking forward to today's topic where we're going to squeeze the juice.
I love it. Squeeze the juice. And I think listeners will find that the juice in this case is worth the squeeze. You know, I get emails multiple times a day, as I'm sure you do, with articles on different leadership topics. And one article I came across recently was about people leadership.
Right.
And what caught my eye initially about the article was that the preview to the actual article was a quote by Simon Sinek that goes, "Leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge." And then the article goes on to talk about the leadership perspective transforming through empathy and engagement. And I guess, after reading through, I couldn't help but remember the people I worked for who did the very opposite. I remember the leaders that didn't care for my well-being, my growth, or my development. They were self-serving and self-righteous. And I, the naive one, thought I was the problem. And that's the thing about leadership that I've come to realize that was so eloquently put in Simon Sinek's quote. It really is more about service towards others. Rachel, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, first of all, I love Simon Sinek. I think he's amazing. And
Right?
yeah, I used to think leadership, was a thing, right? Like something you,
Uh,
and because of that, I felt that it wasn't something that I could have. I think
mm,
also like going back to your point there about it being about you're the problem, it's me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me kind of thing. Um,
right.
but actually, over the last few years, I've come to realize that leadership isn't a thing, right? It's something that you embody. It's something that you are and you can become through embracing, certain qualities and acting in a certain way, as Simon Sinek kind of talks about a lot in his work.
Right, right. Like you had to be born with some magical quality. I think, yeah, we're right. Leadership is absolutely something you embody since it is more about the behaviors that you're demonstrating towards others. And that's why today we're talking about discovering if people leadership is right for you. And, I think when you decide that you want to have a team and you have to enter into that decision with care and intentionality.
Yeah, I mean, leadership is, it's a responsibility. And I think this is really your area of expertise here, Cece. But, leadership has many facets, and taking on a leadership role isn't about a title or a pay packet. And I think that's the mistake that lots of people make, right? It's it's also not just about making big decisions. It's fundamentally about managing people to inspire, motivate, and galvanize them towards a company goal, and doing so with finesse, giving them that sense of purpose as well. And I think that's why so many good and great people who are high achievers, get put into these roles, often
Mhm.
fail at the leadership hurdle, because it's a whole new set of skills that they don't always naturally have. And when the reality of what leadership actually is becomes apparent to them, they realize, like, oh, I don't have those skills. Like, how am I going to do this? It's all about people
Right.
management. It's not necessarily about doing things. And that's why it's really important to support people who move into these roles with leadership training and coaching.
Right, right. Yeah, you need leadership training because it's not like you automatically move through and rise up the ladder knowing this stuff.
Mm,
I've seen too many times where people just get promoted left and right, and they are fast tracked through the hierarchy into people leadership
mm,
that one, they didn't have adequate time to develop those necessary people leadership skills. And we
mm,
talk about this in episode 5 on what makes great leader.
mm,
And two, since they were so fast-tracked, they didn't give themselves time to consider if it's what they really wanted and make that decision to be in service towards others. So I
mm.
also think when you are a leader of a team, your goal should be about developing other leaders. That's why you need to consider if it is truly right for you.
Yeah, 100% agree. Like, there's a huge difference between being, a high functioning and high achieving doer to being a high functioning and highly inspiring leader. And, the
Mhm.
best leaders and managers don't just manage people, they manage processes, time, themselves, competing priorities, to
Right,
help their team achieve something great together that could be, couldn't be achieved through individually or alone.
right,
So, their actions should place the interests of the people around them above their own, and ideally endeavor
right.
to create a legacy and a positive impact that lasts. So it's a really big responsibility, and it certainly shouldn't be taken lightly.
Right. I'll give you all a little insight. While I consider myself a leader in my own right,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly over the work that I'm responsible for, at the moment, I currently do not manage a team. Now, I did at one point have a small team, and I took that really seriously. I was very intentional in coaching them and sharing whatever knowledge I could. And I hope they understood how seriously I took that.
Mm.
But here's the thing, as much as I took it seriously, and despite all of my great coaching efforts, there were still a few things about people leadership that was challenging,
There always,
right? So here's a few things I learned that was challenging.
yeah.
First, I learned I needed to be patient when it came to developing skills in others,
Mm.
because while it might not take long for me to learn something, or maybe I didn't think learning it was a big deal. Others may not have that same experience or ability.
Yeah, I think that can be one of the most challenging aspects when you first start leading people in any way. Like, that realization that not everyone thinks the same way, and more importantly, they don't think the same way that you do. It's, I mean, I remember about 10 years ago, I had a senior manager who once said something really profound to me that stuck with me on this very topic. Right? He said, Rachel, you are able to strategically think ahead and risk assess in the project, but not everyone can do that. So you need to take them on the journey. But first, you need to meet them where they are at and see things from their perspective. Right
Right.
now, honestly, I just hadn't really considered up until that point that people didn't think and see things the same way I did.
Right.
Right? I mean, that just seems really obvious now, right? But I can,
Right.
I imagine many people approach working conversations with that type of mindset, that the person they are working with thinks the same way that they do. But that's a bit of a mistake, really, because it's so far from reality. And this is likely, some of the biggest causes of conflict and dissatisfaction at work, because, we're expecting people to think and do like we would. And you know
Right.
what? Like that insight was such a massive game changer for me. And I really hope that that insight can be really, helpful for some of the people listening to us today as well.
Exactly. It's funny that someone gave you that feedback because
Mm,
someone also gave me that feedback. And my response, and here's where I think the, imposter syndrome creeps up is, well,
mm,
if I can do it or if I can learn it, anyone can. Like, why is it so hard? Because I'm thinking, what do I have? What skill do I have that is so special that you can't?
mm,
So
mm,
I think that's exactly it. The second thing is, and this was really challenging,
mm.
um, remaining empathetic and supportive was super hard at times. I
Right.
actually had one team member, who joined the company, and within the first 3 months had already taken more than a week and a half of vacation time. Mind you, it wasn't vacation days all together, but sporadically here and there, the night before, they would just say, "Oh, I really need to do this tomorrow. Can I take, a day off?" And
Right.
mind you, they hadn't even accrued that time, right?
Yeah.
You know, that same team member, I will say, would also take long lunches and used to get lost shopping. Yeah,
Oh.
really. She told me, like they told me they got lost shopping, which that is just a whole different episode altogether. Okay, so we're not even going to go into that one right now. But I had to be really careful when I was crafting my message to them
Mm,
about, taking all these days off and the long lunches. And, I had to display uh, understanding of their circumstances, or at least the circumstances they were telling me. Who
mm,
knows what is happening, what's true. But
mm,
I had to display an understanding or an empathy for what they're, the circumstances they're navigating, but also at the same time helping them to realize that, when you're new to a team or an organization, you really have to put in that time up front and early to develop yourself in the role, to create a name for yourself, have those small wins. And all of that doesn't happen if you are constantly taking days off and getting lost shopping. So empathy is part of leadership. It's, really difficult to do at times. So you really have to make sure you're ready for that.
Yeah, I think also there's a bit of an element of trust there, like that person hadn't built up any trust with you. And so I think that's important as well for people who are new in a role to like build up that trust so that then you can go and have these extra things.
Right.
But yeah, empathy is essential in leadership, but it can be hard to balance empathy with frustration, especially in the circumstances like the one that you're describing there. And I suppose
Mhm.
it's about using it to let other people know that you are hearing them, but also using it in a way that adequately gets those expectations across. Um,
Right.
yeah. So, and empathy is simply putting yourself in their shoes for a moment to seek to understand. But maybe they are, maybe they're unconsciously sabotaging themselves because of nerves. You don't know with people, do you? Like sometimes people do
Right.
things that they're not even aware of. You know,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, there's multiple reasons why people might act or behave in certain ways, and empathy allows us to give space for those reasons to come to light, and then we can react appropriately as they appear. But as you say, it's not easy. It's quite hard for a lot of people because you can get frustrated by these situations.
Right, right. And especially because I think, and I really had to step away from myself from, how I would act in a similar circumstance. I had to
Mm,
really separate myself from that and think of it from from that person's perspective.
mm,
Okay, what are they navigating that they are desperately wanting me to understand
mm,
and to show them that I understand and I hear and see them, while also, we're a team. We have to get work done. You're responsible for certain things. So there that balancing act is like, doing a dance of tango or something. I had
mm,
to really become very good at communicating my expectation of their performance and also showing them that I do have a human side and understand that they have needs that need balancing. You know,
mm,
um, the third I'll add is you have to do a lot of work that you may not like to do or feel you should do. But, part of leadership is You got to roll up your sleeves and you got to do just that. When you're a people or a team leader, it's different work than when you were just an individual contributor. And I think this is what people don't understand. I think it's called management work.
Mm.
You have to fill out time cards, do performance reviews, have performance conversations. You have to sometimes pick up the slack when others couldn't or they just won't, and that's a whole separate problem. And, a misconception is that some people have is that, oh, I'm just going to do the same work that I was doing when I was in an individual contributor role, but on a higher level. That is not that is not the full story here. It's everything that I just said. You might do something here or there, but a lot of your time will be spent focusing on your team's goals, working on developmental plans, team engagement, the recruitment process, business metrics, managing from the higher ups above you, what they expect from you and your team. It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's a common misconception that you will just do what you have done, but to a higher level.
Mm.
It's not like you just get a new job title and then you just continue doing what you've done before, but to a high level.
Yeah.
It's it's realizing that you got to take a bit of a back seat and and just add in your knowledge and expertise where you need to. It's really about helping your teams achieve amazing results and for individuals to feel like they're contributing in a way that fits their values and purpose. And then, as you say, filling in where you need to, picking up the slack. I like to call it the slops, like picking up the slop.
I love that.
It's like, oh, I've got to clean this up.
Yep.
There's so many different facets to leadership that are never really discussed. And I think that does actually surprise a lot of people when they go into those types of roles.
Right. Like you're like, whoa, no one explained this when I got promoted and got that, great new pay increase, This
Yeah.
is the stuff that I don't, for me, I don't hear people talking about when you enter into those leadership roles.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention this or mention anything about conflict management. Let's
Mm.
face it, the reality is you are not going to have a perfect team where everyone gets along. It's like the Brady Bunch, there's no interpersonal
Totally great.
conflict. It's all puppies and sunshine, rainbows, and everyone performs to their highest capability. It just doesn't exist. You don't get to, it's not like you're at a restaurant ordering from the a la carte menu.
Mm.
You're either promoted into a role and you're given a team, or you have a team that, you have to kind of, people are transferring in, there are, new people joining. So you're rarely ever given the opportunity where the team is solely, you've handpicked them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the reality is you will just have to manage team conflict and issues as they come up. And if you don't have experience with managing conflict before you enter that people leader role, well, then you really need to upskill yourself very quickly, as you enter that role to be able to do just that. You'll have to learn how to manage conflict among your team, within the team itself, and even manage how you might feel about certain team members when things don't always go the way that you think they should. So conflict management isn't just toward, for the team that you're responsible for. It's also, self-management and self-regulation, going back to those EQ competencies of things that you need to manage within yourself when you're a people leader and responsible for a team. And this is the stuff that requires time and experience to be your teacher as your leadership level prep.
Yeah, I mean, conflict management and training, training and ability is crucial for leadership because
Mhm.
it's always going to happen when you're dealing with people because they have emotions, right? They're humans.
Right,
I found personally with conflict management that the most important aspects are that A, everyone feels heard. B,
right,
you deal with the facts rather than drama. So what's the truth? What are the actual facts, right? Because people have perspectives, they have their emotions, their feelings, and what are the facts? And C, that you remain solutions focused, not blame focused, right? It's easy
right,
to blame, but like, how does that help? So,
right.
everyone makes mistakes, right? But wasting time pointing the finger and creating drama doesn't help. It just fuels more conflict. So give everyone space to vent, focus on the facts, and look for quick solutions. And this is really where leadership comes into play, because people are looking to you for the answers. They don't know, they're just having an emotional moment. So, as
Right.
a leader, you need to be impartial and kind of get that bird's eye view on the situation to gain that wider perspective. And then you can make decisions that are going to help be more helpful. So, developing this skill is going to be essential in your leadership journey.
Absolutely. And very, very well put, Rachel. All of the tips that you provided here with how to, manage conflict, in a way that, keeps the neutrality of the situation, because you'll always want to speak from a place of facts and not, oh, I feel that you
Yeah.
or I feel that they.
Yeah.
I want to keep the emotions out of it and stick to the facts and observations.
Mm.
I think just lastly, a key part of people leadership is developing your team to be future leaders.
Mm.
And I think for some people, this might be a little bit hard. I think, sometimes you might have leaders who have a team of people, and I think there are listeners who might know people or have seen this happen, but you might have a leader who's seeing one of their team members become a very key person in the department. They're really rising up. And when that person rises, you've got two types of leaders. One, the ones who are cheering and clapping from the sidelines. All right, go you, awesome. And two, you've got the saboteurs, the ones who are like, ooh, they are stealing my thunder, and I can't have anyone do that. You've
Mm.
got the saboteurs who don't like it when you shine. They want to be the ones to shine. And I've seen both. Um, Leadership is more about growing other leaders. That's the whole point. You need to, otherwise, how will an organization carry itself into the future if you're not constantly growing the next generation of leaders? So you have to be really intentional about that. And when I had my team, I was very intentional about developing their skills, sharing whatever knowledge I can share, giving them exposure, because I was thinking about their growth. And when I train someone and personally develop them, and then they go on to succeed and grow, that reflects well on me because I had a hand in that. And I think for me, that is very satisfying.
Yeah, I think we've said this before in a previous episode, but if you are the smartest person in the room and in your team, then you're doing something wrong. Like, have
Yeah.
people around you that you can develop into leaders so you can future-proof your company and yourself. As you say, leadership is about growth at all levels. So that's growing yourself and the people around you. And often helping to grow the people around you is your growth.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes, I do believe when the people around you grow, that is your growth.
Mm.
So when you think about if leading a team, leading others is right for you, these are just a few things that we've shared that is worth considering if it's what you want. For me personally, I'll say right now I'm at a very different place in life. I obviously don't have a crystal ball to know what the future lays ahead of me, what's in store for me, but I'm determined to work one-on-one with clients to develop leadership capability. And whenever I'm asked to share of my time and my experience with others, I take a lot of pride and pleasure in seeing others grow. And I would like to just do more of that on a larger scale. So I see my growth as a leader evolving more in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd be fabulous to work with. So everyone should contact Susie for that for sure. I mean, personally, I'm really enjoying the leadership journey I'm on now that I've developed a whole new perspective on leadership and what that actually means. Now, as in you can be a leader at any stage of your career because it's something you embody at each level. Now I find that being a leader is like more of a natural thing. And in my work, I'm able to share my knowledge and experience through the lens of helping others to connect with their own potential, learn and grow. And like seeing the people I work with thrive as a result of the coaching and mentoring with me is truly wonderful. And it's not about the humble brag. It's actually about finding joy in those results and this type of work.
I totally agree. It's not about the humble brag, but just like you, I take a lot of joy in seeing
Mm.
those results.
Yeah.
So let's talk through some strategies to discover if people leadership is right for you. We talked about this in episode 2, but first, you really have to use your values as a compass to
Mhm.
guide the decisions you make for your career. And you're probably going to hear us talk about this time and time again. I
Yeah.
don't see how you could not use your values to guide you in your pursuits in life. And it certainly applies here.
Essential, essential. Yeah.
Right?
Hmm.
Second, I also think you need to reflect on whether or not you enjoy coaching and developing others, like both of us do. I said it earlier, but part of leadership is developing other leaders, and for some, seeing others grow past them, it could be difficult. It might be a hard pill to swallow. You're going to have to be able to put your ego aside
Yeah.
and and third, it would also just help if you had a mindset of service towards others. And I think that shows up in a variety of ways. I think service towards others could encompass looking out for those on your team, looking out for their well-being, helping them when you can. Because
Mhm.
leadership, like we're saying here, is more about serving others than it is self-serving.
Yeah.
And that may mean that you have to make sacrifices for yourself for the sake of your team.
Yeah, 100%. And, I think really pertinent questions to ask yourself here about, if people leadership is right for you is, what is your definition of leadership? And what is your motivation for being a leader? Why do you want to be a leader? I think if you answer those first as you proceed into leadership, you're going to get some sort of like foundation that you can really work off, like actually asking yourself and bringing to your conscious awareness, like, what does leadership mean to you and why do you want it?
Right. And that's great advice that I wish I had received earlier in my career. I sort of had to have all of these career epiphanies more later in my career. So these are all things that I certainly could have benefited from hearing a lot when I was a lot more younger in my career. So, hopefully all of this will inspire and motivate all of you listening out there. So wherever you are in your career journey, our hope is that you can take away these insights. And we're just going to spend a few moments wrapping up these takeaways from this episode. So, one, use your values as a compass to guide you if stepping into a people leadership role is right for you. Second, reflect on if coaching and developing others is something that you are passionate about. And third, a service towards others mindset will truly prepare you for the road ahead.
Yeah, and remember, leadership isn't something you have or a title, it's something you embody and share. So, ask yourself, why do you want to be a leader? What's important for you about that?
Exactly. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Leading Ladies Who Lunch podcast. If you like this episode, we would be so grateful if you could share it with your friends and tag us on social media at Leading Ladies Who Lunch. Your reviews of this podcast mean so much to us. We'd love it if you could rate it and subscribe to the show.
Remember, you can find us and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcast platforms. Subscribe to stay up to date with the latest episodes and follow us on Instagram at Leading Ladies Who Lunch.
Tune in 2 weeks where we will be talking all about those difficult choices we have to make as women that impacts our career.
I'm looking forward to that one. Until then, stay sassy. Thank you for joining us on the empowering journey at the Leading Ladies Who Lunch podcast. We hope you've enjoyed our insightful discussions, actionable strategies, and inspiring stories that we break down during each episode. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to Leading Ladies Who Lunch on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. And remember, the conversations you've heard on this podcast are just the beginning of your journey. Let your voice be heard, inspire change, and continue breaking barriers as you lead with authenticity, resilience, and unwavering determination.
Until next time, keep embracing your leadership potential, challenging the norms, and shaping a better world for women in the workplace. Leading Ladies Who Lunch, empowering women, changing lives.